Today's Christmas reading comes from the book A Kentucky Christmas, edited by George Ella Line. That's what the book looks like. This story, the name of it is A Christmas Lesson, and it was written by Belinda Mason. I was born smack in the middle of 7 children. Daddy wouldn't work, and Mother was sick and couldn't. The first view I had of the world was from between the wallboards of the little shotgun house we lived in. I was a married woman before I ever slept in a bed that was made up with sheets, or lived in a house with curtains on the window lights. Now that's the truth. As you might figure, it's been uphill since then. My brother, who's older than I am, puts it like this: I'm just like a goose. I wake up in a brand new world every day. There's lessons, though, I'm going the long way around, I see, to get to what I mean to tell. People where I live in the mountains say about 3 times more than they need to. It takes my Aunt Mag, Muncie, 45 minutes just to tell you bye when you're fixin' to leave. She'll follow you out on the porch, then to the car where she'll hold the door open and talk a while, and then when you pull out, like as not, Aunt Mag will be hollering something as you go. I aim to tell about last Christmas and how I got a reminder from the Lord about what matters. My name is Edna Rose Adams, and I have lived all my life in Perry County in the hills of eastern Kentucky. On Yellow Creek, the branch where me and my husband built 15 years ago, every other house is somebody that's kin to one of us, and the rest are folks I was raised up with, except for old Sarah Black, who came in here to teach when she was a young girl. Miss Black is from New York, and she's been here 50 years and still can't talk right. Living among people you know is a mixed blessing, but I would pick it any day over being in an apartment building with nothing between you and a total stranger but a concrete wall. I work in ladies' wear at Combs Department Store in Hazard. Willis, my husband, is a foreman over at Blue Diamond. He's been in the coal mine since he was a teenager, and after all the years we've been married, I finally got so that my heart don't jump up in my throat when the phone rings while he's on a shift. The pay is a lot better, and the work is not as hard as it used to be, too. We've got 2 daughters, Francine and Cheryl, and never had a day of trouble out of either of them, except when Cheryl was a teenager and set her bedroom curtains afire with a cigarette when she was trying to sneak and smoke. She said she heard me come in the front door and didn't know what to do with it, so she pitched it behind the bed. You can imagine the rest. Francine is a nurse, and Cheryl went to business school and works in Abner Sexton's law office. Cheryl has been married 2 years and says she has no plans to have children. Francine says she doesn't even want a man. When I was growing up, you didn't make any plans, and deciding what you didn't want, like a husband, was out of the question. You took what came and went on. The girls tell me times have changed. Well, times may have, but parents haven't. Parents think like this: someday you will find out, young lady. My best friend is my cousin, Estelle Maggard. We have a lot in common. We know the best places to look for wild greens in the spring. We like the dark meat of a chicken, and we love Conway Twitty. Estelle and me have been following Conway for 10 years, and we had tried to get to Twitty City down in Nashville ever since it opened. One thing or another had kept us from it. One day last November, when I was daydreaming and tagging cardigan sweaters down at the store, Estelle came in. She had on a purple jogging uniform, and her hair was still in rollers. I knew something was up because under normal circumstances she wouldn't be seen without her hair combed. She came scurrying up my aisle, waving a handful of papers. It was literature from Twitty City, and she had figured out a way we could go. Now look here, she said, Christmas at Twitty City. The 23rd is when I take Mother to the arthritis doctor in Nashville, so we can just stay a couple of days, see the sights, and be at Twitty City for Christmas. I didn't even have to think twice. Order the tickets, I told her. I've done and ordered them, she said, and she patted her hair rollers and headed for the door. Estelle is divorced twice with no children, so her life is minus some aspects of mine, both pleasures and aggravations. Why would a woman with a family be so quick to hightail it somewhere else for the holidays, you might wonder. I'd been feeling sorry for myself, is what it was. I knew Willis was a good man and that I loved him, but it seemed like weeks and months would go by, and the most he'd say to me was, "Get me a dish of ice cream or turn up the television." Since the girls had left, he'd come in of an evening, sit his dinner bucket on the snack bar, and head for the TV. Then he'd turn on the sports channel and fall asleep in the reclining chair, and there I'd be in the kitchen, frying potatoes and listening to Conway on my portable tape player. He'd sing all those sweet songs, and it got to that I felt like he was singing directly to me. I knew for a fact that you could get more conversation out of Conway than "Edna, will you reach me a stand-back powder?" Now, I've raised nice girls, as I said, but I started feeling like I was just handy for them, like a pocket on a shirt. Cheryl and her man were always going somewhere on the weekend, and they'd bring me their key to let the dog out and get their mail. Francine was always as independent as a hog on ice, and even though we live an hour apart, I could go 6 months and not hear from her if I didn't call her. Both of them had made fun of me when I got my hair frosted to try and cover the gray. Also, I had thought about going back to school to study forestry and had made the mistake of telling those two about it. At first, they wouldn't even pay attention, and then they acted like I'd lost my mind. "Mother," Cheryl said, "you want to be like Smokey the Bear and get a green uniform?" I was dreading Christmas too. I hate to own up to it, but it's the truth. My brothers and sisters, even the ones from Cincinnati and Detroit, always met at Mother's on Christmas Day. You could count on one of the children to break the other one's new toy, or some of the men to slip out to the smokehouse and drink, or the women in-laws to hurt each other's feelings. Before dinner was even cooked, somebody would be grabbing up their children and going home mad. The idea of walking around Conway's big fine home, all lit up with those little white lights like in Estelle's pictures, sounded a lot better than what I usually did. Of course, everybody pitched a fit when I told them. Mother said, "Who'll fix the stack cake?" 2 of my sisters quit speaking to me. The girls started whining, and Willis asked me if I was at myself. I stubbed up on them. In some little hard, hateful place inside, I thought, now you all will see. I imagined listening to Conway sing and that warm feeling it gave me, and how pretty it would be seeing all the Christmas lights in Nashville. Estelle and me bought matching green sweaters, and because it was the holidays and we could get good rates, we made reservations for the Opryland Hotel. I decided not to make any candy, and because I really felt hateful, not to put up the tree and see if any of them even noticed. I thought when I got back I would just give them their gifts and let it go at that. Now here's what happened. On the day we were leaving, I got in from work and Willis was putting up a tree. He took off from work early and had gone to the woods and cut one like we used to years and years ago, before we got the white one with blue velvet balls and bows we use now. And somewhere he'd found the decorations we used when the girls were little. There was a string of those old bubble lights you used to get, and 3 red ornaments with white writing on them left out of a set he'd bought at the company store when we first married. I remembered him carrying them into the house. He was just a boy, really, and how proud he was when he gave them to me. Neither of us had much of a Christmas growing up. We might get an orange or some hard candy, and we didn't have a tree every year. I got my bags packed, and I was waiting for Estelle while he was fixing the tree. He'd stripped down to his t-shirt and breeches and hadn't washed yet. His eyes had big circles of coal dust around them, and he looked as tired and old as I'd ever seen a man look. I started to get that lonesome feeling you have real often when you're little. Estelle blew the horn, and Willis got his billfold out and gave me $100 bill. "You be careful, Rose," he said. "Buy yourself a pretty." Rose is what he called me when we were courting. When he hugged my neck, I felt a big knot come in my throat, but I didn't let on. I grabbed my suitcase and hustled out to the car. In the rearview mirror, I could see him standing on the deck watching us go. We hadn't even got to the county line before I made Estelle turn around. She sold up like a possum, but I knew she'd get over it. "What am I supposed to do about Mom?" Estelle said when I was getting out of the car back in front of the house. "Take her to see Conway," I said. "Conway, my foot," I heard Miss Maggard grumble from the back seat. She's 75. Willis didn't go to his room that evening. We fixed a pot of coffee and sat there beside the tree, watching the lights and letting the dark come. We didn't say much, but some way we didn't need to. Here's the way I figured it. Conway didn't know me from Adam's house cat. He wouldn't miss me if I wasn't at his city for Christmas. But who would fix the stack cake if I didn't? And who would pet the children and referee the in-laws? Christmas miracles may not be that obvious anymore, but gaining the vision to appreciate what you have and how you fit in your place in the world is surely a gift. A year ago, I wouldn't have believed it could happen, but me and Willis have joined a square dancing club. Some weekends, when Cheryl has asked me to see about that old dog, I've told her to haul it right down to the kennel and board it. Francine's not any better about keeping in touch, and at Mother's last year for Christmas, 2 sister-in-laws got close to the point of hair pulling over what kind of cheese to put in the broccoli casserole. Life's not perfect, but the fact of the matter is that I wouldn't trade mine for anybody's. I've had a lot of good luck and more than my share of blessings, and I've seen that the Lord will use whatever His own hand to teach us the lessons we need to learn. What I'm saying is, don't wait for a voice to come out of a burning bush before you notice it. Conway got divorced in the spring. Estelle read it in a music magazine. The last time I saw him on TV, he looked bad. He's aged a lot. And this friend of mine, Shirley, whose daughter lives in Nashville, heard that Conway's wife, Mickey Twitty, has been selling autographed cookbooks down at the Winn-Dixie on Briley Parkway.